Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with the final series of the SEA TI5 qualifiers. We've got MVP versus MVP, Hot6 versus Phoenix. It's all coming down to this. I'm Zyori. I'm joined by Purge, Gods, as well as Blitz. What an exciting turn of events here for the SEA qualifier. Who would have thought it will be MVP versus MVP in the finals?
I put Rave on my compendium.
Me too.
I lost.
Yep. Two of the still stronger teams coming in. I think most people would have had both MVPs in their top four. Both teams have looked really good over the past couple of months. MVP has been kind of a powerhouse as far as South Korea and even SEA is concerned. So two teams definitely in top shape right now.
I felt for me personally that MVP Hot6, they weren't my favorite going into this, but I thought that they had the most potential upside because they were newer to the scene kind of with their pickups. For example, Sunbi. He used to play for Hot6 with an entirely different squad before this, and Jarex obviously is a relatively new transplant. I want to say maybe 3 or 4 months, right? And so I didn't really know how quickly they would be able to gel or anything like that because I feel like this Phoenix squad has a little bit more veteran leadership with March, who's been playing forever, right? Febby was the captain of Poker Face. QO was the captain of 5 and Q. Like, they have players that individually have served that role. So I thought Phoenix would do a little bit better, and it was a little bit of a surprise for me to see MVP Hot6 secure the top spot so quickly.
Mm-hmm. What are you thinking, Purge? How do you feel about this finals?
It should be very good. I think the teams have slightly different strengths. I think the support players on both teams are amazing. They just have really good plays. Jarex has improved so much over the last few years, and right now he's one of the top supports in the world. And there's a lot of games that he has where you're like, oh, you're a support, but you're playing like a mid, but you're supposed to be a support. But he did so well that he pushed his team into really good positions. So we just consistently see a lot of really amazing performances out of the supports, and the cores are nothing to say they're bad either. So the cores are really good, their supports are really good, they have cool strats, and they seem pretty variable. I thought maybe Phoenix was a team that wasn't very good at adjusting their playstyle, but they definitely did that in that series versus Rave. They adjusted their picks, they adjusted their play, and it seems like both of the teams have really grown a lot since last year.
Yeah, that's one of the more interesting dynamics about this series is that these teams have faced off against each other so much. They're scrim partners. They played against each other a lot, and that's where we may see this kind of mini-meta start to evolve in this series. Remember, it is a best of 5, and I reckon of all the BO5s to go the distance, this is probably a pretty good candidate.
Yeah, definitely.
As much as they play together a lot, they do have very different play styles and even picks that they lean towards, I feel. MVP Phoenix favor a bit more kind of 5-man oriented play. They like to group up earlier on. On Hot6, it feels like they kind of like to draft more kind of hero combos and seem much more willing to innovate with their strategies. Yeah, Phoenix in the past have done their Warlock type picks, but they haven't really changed a whole lot. Although in the series against Rave, I do feel like they did bring in some slight adaptations to Rave's playstyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, personally, Phoenix just feels like the aggressive team of all aggressive teams in the C qualifier, aside from maybe TNC. It feels like they kind of just want to impose their tempo on early on, where they kind of get aggressive and they kind of want you to back down or eventually crumble under the pressure. And I think this matchup is so interesting because Hot6 doesn't seem like they get scared or nervous about it. If you watched the games before this when they actually had to play against each other in the winners qualifiers, right? They just ran at each other and neither team would stop. It felt like I didn't really know who was getting the better end of the trades, but it didn't seem like either of them were willing to give up, right? It was like, well, no, you'll back down. It's like, no, well, you'll back down. And it just felt like they were throwing each other like bodies. It was just like, okay, we'll die.
Yeah.
We'll get 5-man wiped. Then you'll get 5-man wiped.
It was like each one was trying to call the other's bluff, but
Yeah, exactly.
nobody was bluffing. They all just kept going in. And every team fight, at the end, I go, base skip, what's happening here? Is anybody winning? Is this just pure madness? And that usually was about the way of it at the end of the fights. One of the key heroes I want to talk about before we get into the draft is Bloodseeker, though. That's one that we've seen a bit in this qualifier. I think in the best of 3 we saw earlier, it was banned out in every game, if I'm not mistaken. My memory is failing me now. Do you think we'll see it banned out in basically all the games in this series as well?
It looks like it's going to be for this game. In the last series that they played, Phoenix banned basically a lot of cheesy heroes. It was like Undying Bloodseeker was always in their first round. In their second round, they did Huskar plus Pugna or something else for their rotating 4th ban. And it's basically things that Hot6 does that have really good synergy. And I think that's one of their strengths is that they have really smart drafts, and they're playing these interesting heroes like Bloodseeker in the right way. So Phoenix obviously plays against them all the time, so they should be able to predict that, and that's why we see those targeted bans.
Yeah, I think Dro and Lestrak are going to be two other key heroes throughout this series. Lestrak banned out this time around, and Dro got through, picked up by MVP Phoenix with the Queen of Pain. And Queen of Pain, just a staple pick for any team, and doesn't really seem to be a hero that quite has become ban-worthy.
Yeah, it feels like it hits any meta and it does pretty well. For example, if you decide to go for an early team fight aggression type of lineup, the Queen of Pain does really well because of the BKB piercing ultimate. Her laning phase, if you kind of want to go for the lane dominating kind of style where you can put her in any type of lane and you don't have to hard commit, then she can flat out win against anybody. It's hard to gank her because of the blink range, for example. The dagger allows you to trade efficiently 1-for-1 in any scenario. And if you decide to go for even a late game scenario, I mean, blink, refresher, BK, or not blink, refresher, ags, BKB, you're still
X,
going to do,
etc.,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. You're still going to do a ton of damage overall. It kind of just feels like this hero fits every phase of the game right now.
It also fits every lane. That's the other big thing where you can pick it first and you're not really revealing whether it's going safe lane, mid, or every now and then off lane. So
And he matches up against a lot of good 1v1s basically because he's already a very strong 1v1 hero, so he doesn't, it's hard to punish him. You can't just put a Darkseer against him. The only thing that really beats him is maybe burst damage heavy hero combinations, but as a whole he's very safe, or she is very safe, that is. So Lina now for MVP Hot6. It's a hero that Jerax made some amazing plays with in the set before. Got a couple of triple kills as an early support, fast Glimmer Cape. Just really good positioning from him. He's always looking to set up kills and start the initiation chain.
Yeah, and picking up Lena this early on, a little bit open-ended. She's sometimes run as a core, though, like you were talking about. Jerax will generally take her as a support. I think both teams getting a lot of heroes in their comfort zone with this opener.
Yeah, Sunbeam most likely going to play the Undying. It wasn't his top heroes there. He seems to play more like team fight, initiating heroes, not so much cores. You never really see him on something like a semi-carry, so I think they're going to be happy with the Undying there. Gives them the possibility of aggressively trialing, which I think is decent against Drow. Zombies can be a pain for her.
Yeah,
DK as well, or HP's low. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Hot6 could go aggressive here if they want to. In the second round, we see a Dazzle ban, and Earthshaker ban, and a Nyx Assassin ban.
Yeah, Hot6 focusing supports here, and all of these heroes we've seen Phoenix run a lot, especially that Dazzle Witch Doctor that we brought up a few times. But here we go. Darkseer, third pick for MVP Phoenix.
well, cards are on the table now. There's the 3 core heroes for MVP Phoenix. I think they want to make sure they snagged it in case Hot6 had in mind to pick it up. And I think Phoenix are pretty versatile with their support players. Nuts especially is just, I mean, his Witch Doctor's been amazing, but both supports can play a wide mix of heroes. We've seen them swap around a lot, so I don't think they don't feel like they have to get a certain pick for Nuts or for Febby.
Nuts is like, he's actually so good at support though. If you looked at his KDA, he was positive kill to death ratio. You almost never see that on a support player. But his positioning is always so good. He hides in trees, sits on the back of the fight, knows about where his opponents are likely to be, and then as soon as they initiate, he can come from the back, throw a cast that's unexpected, and blow somebody up. So he's just been... honestly, the supports on both teams are very good. Heen is, I think, really outperforming right now compared to what he did on Phoenix. On Phoenix, he was strong, but had some weak games. But lately on Hot6, man, he just doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and he consistently puts out really good performances. So it's really a lot comes down to how the support play in the early game will go.
Well, Hot6, they'll burn through all of their reserve time just about with this third pick, and they do settle on the Disruptor, another good support that fits the bill with this kind of high-octane, aggressive style that we've seen so much. Anytime you're the aggressor and you've got a Disruptor on your team, you're living the dream.
Yeah, right now, the one thing I'm a little bit concerned with in both lineups is that neither of these teams have a reliable stun. Like the Lina, yes, it is a stun, but it's contingent on the fact that you're able to land it and predict. If you look at MVP Phoenix's lineup, though, they're so lucky they got that Queen of Pain because you need a hard disable to lock down that type of mobile hero, and I think that was why the Disruptor was immediately taken in the third pick because it does well against mobile heroes. It does well against the Darkseer because if he just surges away, you can glimpse back. The Drow Ranger is kind of a wash. It doesn't really matter too much, but I think against the 2 mobile cores right now of MVP Phoenix, it works out really well. And for Phoenix right now, I'd like to see at least one disable from a support. I'm not entirely certain who they should run.
I mean, Vengeful Spirit is still an option. Who else has a hard disable that has been pretty popular these days?
Rubik, obviously.
Their big
Yeah,
supports,
very
I mean, big supports for them have been Witch Doctor, Earthshaker.
Some Dazzle.
Yeah, some Dazzle. They haven't played much Rubik, but I think Rubik is still a good hero to pull up here. It's just such a strong, stable support.
It's played by other teams a lot,
Yes.
but not so much for Phoenix here. Visage is their pick,
Oh,
so
how could we forget about the Visage
it's-
Drow? There you go.
It's something that's not picked as much at, is the band hero usually in the Drow Visage strap, but people kind of moved away from the Visage. They're like, yeah, it's a good hero, but it's not really amazing. I think it's pretty good this game, though. They can focus on the Tombstone with the birds. Pretty low armor on Lina and Disruptor. Good burst damage with the Soul Assumption. I think it's a decent combo with the Queen of Pain. So
Yeah, it's a good Visage game, I'd say.
And I think Drow Visage lineups can get away with not having a lot of crowd control just because you group up kind of early, you take towers, you take Roshan, and then you look to end the game by 25 to 30 minutes in. And that's where you play a style where it's not like you're going to get a hero like a Storm Spirit or Weaver causes you problems because these heroes can't fight into the 5-man anyways. The kind of elusive heroes that you need stuns for don't really work well against that kind of a playstyle.
Now, this is interesting from Hot6. We've seen a little bit of Bounty Hunter play, but it's exclusively been against Chen, or a dedicated jungler, to really slow down that presence. And here, they'll just take Bounty Hunter by himself, maybe predicting that Chen or a jungler will be the final pick for MVP Phoenix and trying to deter that.
I'm not sure if it's going to be... I assume at this point that it's going to be a Lina core. Surely it has to be, right? Because it's not going to be Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
So probably support Bounty Hunter, support Disruptor is what we'll see. I mean, he can move around the map and make things happen. He's not very good against Darkseer roaming, but if a Drow is in a solo lane, it's definitely a dangerous thing. And if it's a Quap versus a Lina in 1v1 and Bounty Hunter shows up, it can actually be significant. So I feel like Bounty can get some stuff done this game. Visage is definitely a little worried about him in the early game as well. It's a hero that Visage can't really deal with him that well, or at least burns his mana. So I think Bounty is potentially good here. And if they do have pretty good gank and solo kill potential. So if they do rack up the track kills and delay the game long enough, they could get a big gold advantage. It seems a little weird to me, though. Do you see anything that makes it look good, guys?
I actually thought that the Bounty Hunter was going to get taken by MVP Hot6. I know it's one of those, like,
They did pick,
hindsight.
you mean Phoenix, right?
Or Hot6.
Oh, you predicted the pick.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's one of those, like, hindsight. I feel like I should just shout these things. Like, if I feel a hero, just like, Bounty Hunter.
Do it,
While
dude.
talking.
But I think that the thing is that MVP Phoenix and Hot6 have played against each other so many times that all the heroes that you would typically see are banned out and taken out of play. And so I feel like you have to kind of reach into the box and say, okay, they saw how much success that Bounty Hunter has had throughout the entire qualifiers. So even if it's not your first pick, I feel like it's one of those things where they look at it and say, that could actually really pay off. I'm not the biggest fan of Bounty Hunter against heroes that snowball like MVP Phoenix's lineup does, where they just begin to 5-man at a certain phase and then they never stop. Then Bounty Hunter is completely worthless because you can't really get in close. But I think if the Bounty Hunter can get going in the first 3 or 4 levels, get some levels, and he can kind of just disrupt the flow of the game, then I feel like it's a worthy pick. For MVP Hot6, I think they need something to be able to deal with the Drow Visage. I think they need a little bit better team fight that's a little bit more reliable, like a mid hero that can lock down, like an Invoker that would go Quaswex, or even a hero that we don't see very often, but something like a Magnus. I just think that they need some sort of hard lockdown, because if you look at their team and what they're playing against, they're against a Queen of Pain, they're against a Drow Ranger. Like, you need, those are squishy heroes, but at the same time, you need a way to gap close that. I mean, your Bounty Hunter's not going to do it.
Hot6 is so squishy. It feels like they need something tankier, like, well, maybe PL as their fighting carry.
That's pretty good. The AoE on Phoenix is a bit low, with the exception of Quap. So I think this is an okay solution. I think I like the Phoenix draft better, though. It looks a lot like it rounds out a lot better. Lots of stuns. Their tri-lane is really safe.
Just about to say the same thing, and I can't believe I forgot about the Lion as the final pick. Gives them some. They have a lot of burst damage, a lot of control, and certainly a lot of push with the Drow Visage.
For me personally, I feel that if Hot6's lineup can get going early, like they can do something, for example, like snipe the courier mid, or the Bounty Hunter can just pressure the offlaner or do something like we saw Pylai Die do in the NA qualifiers, then I feel like that lineup, obviously, it's a Bounty Hunter. It's a high-risk, high-reward hero. If you can get levels early and you can get 1 or 2 track kills, it can make the difference in the next fight, where you'll have usually at least one minor item over the other team. But I feel like if this lineup doesn't get going early, then I think they just get run over.
Yep.
Yeah.
The first 6 to 8 minutes to me, like, as you're saying, is going to be what decides almost the outcome for MVP Hot6. Whether they can find the early pressure from the Bounty Hunter, or if they just have a lost running around the map Bounty Hunter who maybe even gets caught out by a Dust or a Sentry and goes down.
All right, well, with that, game number 1 of this best of 5 finals. At the end of this, we'll know which MVP squad will be right into the main event of TI and which one will have to go through the wild card. Game number 1 about to get underway. Your casters, Gods, and Blitz, take it away.
Well, thank you, Zaire. Here we go. It's game 1 of the best of 5, as said, and this is the start for these two South Korean teams to make their say as to getting a direct place in the main event at the International. before seeing drafts and stuff, did you favor either of these two teams coming into things Blitz?
I really thought that MVP Phoenix was going to actually beat them in the upper bracket finals. I thought they were a more stable team, but from what I've seen, MVP Hot6, they're just kind of willing to risk it all, it feels like. Like, the type of players that they are, especially, is high mechanical skill, maybe not the best controlled aggression, but I feel like in terms of actual skill ceiling, one of the highest teams in the scene. And I'm just so glad that I'm a little bit biased because I'm Korean and I live there, but I'm really glad that both MVP teams are going to be able to make it.
Yep. Well, great early vision from Jarek. Scouts out most of the Phoenix heroes here in the top side of the map, and will be a top bounty rune going the way for QO on the mid lane, and meanwhile on the bottom lane it will be the Lina, I imagine, picking it up for MP. So Lina versus Queen of Pain mid matchup, slightly Lina favored, or what should we be looking to see there?
I think it's slightly Lina favored, but Queen of Pain, if this makes sense, Queen of Pain has better potential to kill Lina than Lina does to kill the Queen of Pain, because unless you really severely mess up as the Queen of Pain, you should always have to blink up. Yes, maybe you get zoned out by the Dragon Slave, but you shouldn't die. That's like the only thing that you really have to avoid in this lane. Do not die. And Jarex can gank you, but I think what they're actually hoping for is that QO decides to go for the dagger level 1, and actually, oh, right, see, he actually just waited to skill.
Yep. Smart. And this is where I saw the bounty hunter pick, I was like, sometimes you see it against like the Shadow Fiend type mids, the Lina's mid, because there's a lot more gank potential there, but Queen of Pain can always have blink up. The Courier Snipe in mid lane. Oh dear, Jerax. Well, you talked about a Courier Snipe for Hot6, and they've got one. QO looking to punish. Blinks forward with the Shadow Strike, but there's another Invis in 2 seconds for Jerax, and he'll be just fine.
I feel like that's a tilt move by QO as well, going for that, because the odds of you getting the kill are quite low, I feel. Yeah, the Sentry Ward's there, but I think Jerax has some idea of it. And the other thing, too, is that QO just wastes a lot of his mana and a lot of his time. And that's what we were talking about, right? Is that we discussed before this game, if he gets the Courier Snipe off, then I feel like it immediately pays off. Because this matchup is Lina favored as is.
Yep.
The Queen of Pain just can't stand up to the amount of harass you're going to take from the Dragon Slave.
Well, that's worrisome. QO did get his Tangos out on the Courier, but still going to be very tough for him, where he won't be able to bring out his bottle as early as he'd like to. And from there, Jarek's now rotating bottom lane. He's all over the place. It's going to be catching up March here, who has a Surge available, but with the Bounty Hunter extra bit of damage here, March going to run south, and he's going to TP, but I don't think he will get a chance to use it. He's going to hold on to it and just accept his fate. Heen picks up the kill, as that's first blood as well.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about before the draft, is if Jerax is able to do what he's doing right now, is he's pressuring the enemy offlaner, which I really like the Bounty Hunter to do, right? We saw Pylai Dai kind of have that rotation pattern where he would go to the mid lane, mess with him as much as he can, and then just go to your own offlane and kind of lull the Darkseer into a false sense of security and say, okay, he's probably not going to be able to do anything. They can't kill me if I just play safe, and then he comes in, gets a few extra XP, and then once he can get to like that level 2, level 3 range, I feel like he can start to pressure the other lanes.
Shuriken's just such like a, does so much damage at early levels, even just with 1 or 2 points after the changes, so makes this roaming Bounty Hunter even more potent. As run into March at the bottom lane, not really a trade he can win against the Iron Shell, although he's going to keep on taking it. From the high ground comes Disruptor, glimpse back, and that surge is now over. March could be in some trouble. Jerax getting low himself. They're going to fight it out. Jerax not dead, and Disruptor from the high ground will be able to bring down March. That's a second kill on the offlane Darkseer. Great play from Jerax on the Bounty Hunter, as well as the Disruptor moving in as well.
That was perfect timing by Heen, and the type of space game they played, Jerax just kept bringing March over and over, right? It kind of felt like he was playing a little bit too risky there, but if you actually think about it, he was just trying to drag March a little bit closer to the cliff so that Heen could keep getting those right clicks off on him, and that was just a wonderful outplay, and that sets your offlaner back so much. Obviously, if you're watching the game, you can tell 2 deaths on the offlaner isn't great, but that kind of stuff snowballs, and that's the offlane trap, I feel, where you see an opportunity to kill a support and you overcommit for it. I never think that's worth it. I think that you should play for the farm game. At worst, go to the jungle, because right now what you just did is you gave solo experience to both the Bounty Hunter and the Disruptor, and you just gave gold to them without having to rotate the carry.
Yep. Now Jarek's at top. He has been everywhere on the map so far. So that's poking at KP. TP comes in from Disruptor. They want to go for kills. They drop the Tombstone as well. KP gets glimpsed back under the tower, under the Tombstone. That's 1 kill going the way of Hot6, and they want more. They want nuts, and it looks like they're going to get him. Sunbee right-clicking away, and Jerax gets himself another kill for his team. Oh boy. Things just falling apart here.
Yeah, and that's a 4-minute killing spree, and in this mid lane, QO does manage to blink away, and that's what I'm talking about, is that it's going to be really hard for MP to be able to kill him. But at this point, with how the lanes have gone, you don't need him to. And what I really like about Hot6's style right now is that they're actively pressuring a hero that they understand is really weak in the early game and making it difficult for the Drow to get to that snowball start. And all the Undying has to do is survive and wait for Jurex to be able to come in and pressure him. Because if your hero only has like 560 HP, 1 decay, it doesn't really matter what level the bounty is. As long as he's level 2 with 1 level of the slow, you're never going to be able to fight into that.
And while Kyo hasn't died, he's first been forced back to Fountain to heal up once. Then he went into the jungle. Now he's going to the Fountain for a second time in 5 minutes. And so much of that coming down to that courier snipe earlier on.
Yeah, and you're just seeing the ripple effect that Jurex has had. The more important thing as well is that if you force the mid laner back, yes, Kyo doesn't die, but you notice that he immediately TPs to this mid lane, and he has to be the hero, I feel, to rotate to help the other lanes to make things okay. But if you waste a TP for mid to get back to farm when the lane is pressuring into your tower, then it makes it even more difficult. If Jurex decides to go top again, then there's going to be no QO there.
Well, looking for a stun on QO, not going to land. It looked like Hot6 did see Phoenix plant the Observer Ward on the high ground at mid lane, so they should be able to easily de-ward that, as they had their own Observer Ward for vision. And Jurex in the mid has a sentry available, will not use it for now. It looks like he has other ideas in mind. Maybe not spotting out the ward being planted.
Yeah, and he's just continuing to be a nuisance, and now they find the ward, man. This is so huge right now because with MVP style of play, I feel like this just snowballs them even harder. And I mean, look at the Lion right now. He hasn't rotated at all. He's level 2 right now, and Jurex, who's been all over the map, is almost level 4.
This is an unfortunate position to be in, while the top kill score a bit misleading, as this is 4 unanswered kills. There were 2 neutral suicides, I believe, coming out from Hot6. Bottom lane, Forev now, looking for the kill on March. Gets him just at the last right click before the TP went through, and top lane, they're also getting aggressive. They're going to go on KP. That's the second death for Dro Ranger, as Jurex will pay for this with his life. The first kill for MVP Phoenix gets picked up, and it's the Bounty Hunter, who's been a big problem here, but that's also a hero you don't mind losing every now and then if he's giving you this huge early game advantage.
Oh, 100%, sir. Sure, because what you're trading right there is a bounty who hasn't prioritized farm whatsoever, has been rotating around the map, and all you're doing is making your Undying even more effective. And the way to compare offlaners is just, you want to see how the other offlaner is doing, not so much how the enemy carry is doing, right? But at this point, the Undying you can kind of compare to the Dro just because of how many times Jurex has rotated in, and he's been a monster. Alright.
Okay.
Oh, and at bottom as well. I mean, this is just a bloodbath.
I know this is just squishy, but that was like insta 350, 400 damage nuke. Shuriken, Decay, like...
He just kind of blew up. I didn't really expect that. And then at the same time, the Lion dies at bottom as well. And so you're just not seeing anything go right for MVP Phoenix right now.
Completely snowballing here. Jurex, level 4.5, so no track online yet, which is the good news for Phoenix, but it's not really good news considering how much they've been giving up in the early game here.
Oh, Kyo smoked up, and he's used another TP for mid, if you notice that, Gods.
Yeah.
So that's another time that he's not going to be able to rotate for that top lane. And imagine if he had been able to rotate for that top lane. There's been 2 times so far.
Pop goes to smoke. They run into the Bounty Hunter, and, well, that's just a scout out. And they're going to deep ward again this high ground ward. They're going to look to go on an MP. MP throws out the Laguna Blade, but will die to the Soul Assumption. In comes Jurex from the side. Kyo's already committed the blink, and just level 1. He'll die for this one, as Bounty Hunter picks up the kill. Jurex looking for a second on Nuts to get the glimpse back on Visage. Febby going to die to the Disruptor. Meanwhile, Nuts dead as well.
No.
Oh, man, that is just so much golden experience going the way of Hot6 here. Just the Lina kill. Not worth it in the slightest.
And on top of that, you notice that they had placed a ward in the mid lane. It got de-warded, and then they just placed another one in vision of that sentry before
That's some
3
tilt
minutes.
stuff.
Yeah, I really feel like this is just MVP Phoenix getting a little bit... Maybe they're feeling the pressure, because even that mid move, right, where Kyo got his courier sniped, I feel like he should have known that the Bounty Hunter was there. He could have checked that he had boots, and then he wastes most of his mana on him. I feel like this is less bad play and more just frustration.
Well, they have somehow managed to get Visage up to level 6, which means Familiar's now online, but in comes MP with the double nuke combo, and Jurex sets it up, gets level 6 off of that kill. Has track available. There's no Sonic Wave. That's the other bad thing for QO after that last fight, is it did put Sonic Wave on court. He's being slowed down. Turns Dragon Slave stun as well. MP will get
the kill for Jerax, but did pay for it with his life. Meanwhile, Jerax says not going to Shadow Walk. He's going for the kill. KP, suicide skill the bounty hunter. Now they're going to go into Nuts here. It's Nuts versus Sunbee. Zombies helping out a little bit. Just the one. Now the glimpse back comes. Pulls line into the kinetic field, and he is done for as they lose the familiars as well.
It just feels like one of those things that gets added in, David. It's like, oh, and you lost your bird.
Yep. By the way, that's like a 60 to 80 seconds or so without familiars now.
Yeah, and it feels...
2 minutes. Okay, even better.
I've been playing against Kyo for a really long time, and I kind of understand his mentality here. He feels like he has to make something happen. He's one of those players where he feels like the game relies on his performance a lot, and that does make him play a lot better. But I feel like when he gets into this type of scenario where he loses his bottle, you know, and he kind of just gets aggravated by the amount of things that he's had to do differently, where he's had to TP to the lane constantly, where he's been forced out by the Lina, and then he goes for that aggressive dive. Like, yes, you got the Lina kill, but at the same time, you're just giving up more and more levels and farm to Jerax, who, I mean, he hasn't pulled a single time, right? Like, he's actually just been rotating non-stop around the map, and he's picked up drums at 10 minutes.
What? He got his first track kill, or even maybe a second one, but this should be an easy kill on Nuts here. May not even need the support backup, although there is an Undying nearby. Another Shadow Walk forward. Nuts underneath the tower. Okay, easy kill.
Yeah, and when a
Nothing to
support
say about
bounty
that.
hunter is doing this right now to one of your other supports, it's just nowhere on the map feels safe anymore. Like, he was just going for a pull relatively close to his tower.
Well, QO didn't want to blink because he knew there was a glimpse back, and you mentioned QO feeling like he has to make something happen, and it's kind of continuing to try and do so, but it's backfiring.
Yeah, and right now, we talked about it. If the laning phase, the first 6 to 8 minutes goes well for MVP Hot6, then they can definitely build up an advantage, but they haven't even had to wait for the first 6 or 8
I don't
minutes.
think anyone expected to go this well as they find their 18th kill in 11 minutes. This is starting to get kind of ugly for MVP Phoenix. 5 of the top 6 net worth heroes all on the Radiant side. They haven't even pushed a single tower yet, but that's going to begin soon as they're pressuring bottom lane. They've been pressuring mid and top as well. And not much Phoenix can do. Dro's rotated just towards the Ancients in the jungle, feeling like no lane is safe.
When you're in this position as well, where your Dro has to go to the jungle or the Ancients because she doesn't feel safe farming the top lane out, and March might even go down here again.
Oh, gets pulled back. Spike's coming into play on our side as well. Mark's looking to fight his way through this one. Iron Shell not up, and he's going to die to the PL, it looks like. PL gets low. Nuts with one more right click. The Soul Rip heals him up at the last second. Nuts is going to be a track kill for MVP Hot6. As Forever will make his way out of there as well. Queen of Pain gets the kill with the Sonic Wave, but may pay for this with her life. And a track kill on Queen of Pain for the PL. Even that is not really a good trade when there's track involved.
Every single time that you're killing a support hero, most of the time you'll say, okay, it's only a level 4 or 5 Lion. What's the big deal? But, I mean, look at his net worth, 714. Yeah, that doesn't give you the most, but every single track kill makes it kind of even. It's almost like you're killing a normal-sized hero.
Yeah. And it turns into a core. That's 200 extra gold for Bounty Hunter, 50 for every ally nearby. This is problematic.
We checked at 10 minutes, and I made sure to make a mental note of this. Jerax had drums and regular boots, and 2 minutes later, just 2 minutes later, he's fully completed his phase boots. On top of that, he's got 1k gold. Like, he could go any direction he wants at this point, and he would be okay with it. And I just feel like right now, MVP Phoenix have to stop the nosebleed. And, I mean, at bottom, Febby goes down again. They can't really do anything about it, as they're just dying with impunity now, gods.
This is getting ugly.
Yeah, they're saying this is kind of unplayable, but if Sunbee's saying that, imagine what it's like for Phoenix right now. Alright, so can we talk to management? I think they're actually they're both in the same location, so neither team is gonna call shenanigans or anything like that.
Yeah, it looks like it is the servers, not the location they're playing. I'm not sure if they realize that yet. So the admin's saying he has the same spikes. We'll take a look at this replay here at bottom lane, where Forev goes in with the lads. This was kind of a spiky fight, although I don't think the lag spikes necessarily affected the outcome too much, per se.
And so March is going to get drop the wall, but, I mean, they just don't have the damage right now because the line is such a low level, because I feel if Warnuts is level 6 there, they get the kill on Phantom Lancer 100% assured, and maybe from a morale standpoint, it's worth it, but that's just another track kill, and you have to hard commit the Queen of Pain as well to come in and throw down the ultimate. yes, you get the kill, but you're not looking to trade 1-for-1 against a bounty hunter in any scenario, I feel.
No, even even if you start killing off core heroes for supports, it still doesn't feel like the best trade from time to time. So we'll see. Hot6 now they're going to start claiming towers, and this is where Phoenix are going to lose all sense of map control.
Yeah, more than the fact that I feel Phoenix are playing poorly, I just think that this is Hot6 executing their strategy to perfection. Like, a lot of people are going to look at this and say MVP Phoenix played really bad, but I don't think that's the case here at all. Like, I'm not really going to criticize a lot of MVP Phoenix's choices. It just felt like Hot6 were one step ahead of them in every scenario. And at top again,
Well, they're going to go into KP. Here comes rotation. Kyo blinks in. He's committed to this one. He blinks in underneath the tombstone of all places. Tracked up. This is going to be multiple track kills going the way of Hot6. A third track comes out. Nuts gets caught out on the line. And oh boy, things have really, well and truly fallen apart. The ship is quickly sinking here.
that's a 13. I don't even know what to say. I'm just kind of reading off numbers here, but I just want people to understand the gravity of the situation. That's a 13-minute mech almost hood undying in the offlane that was against a straight-up tri-lane. And that was a strong tri-lane as well. It was a triple ranged with a Visage and a Lion. Like, most heroes are going to struggle against that. And the fact that he's done as well as he has, you've got to give all the credit in the world right now to MVP Hot6. This mid, Kyo just blinks forward again. Is he going to get picked off for this? And
that
this
to me
another
is
track.
like, maybe they've just kind of thrown in the towel at this point almost.
It kind of feels like they're at the point where they're like, okay, what are we actually meant to do? We're so far behind. Maybe this is how they get things started, though, as Forev is the target. He does get hit by the tail end of the gust, but he's so tanky right now. Another track goes down. Jarex is getting hit. Febi's dipping quite low.
They're fighting on the tombstone again. They can't even find a kill for themselves. They're just throwing bodies at MVP Hot6, and this almost to me looks like time to call GG,
no.
and they will. Game 1 over and done with 14 and a half minutes, 30 kills. What a massacre.
That's 30 kills and 14. You can just throw the raw numbers at people, and anybody that's following this tournament right now can kind of understand for themselves what the deficit felt like. This just kind of felt like a classic case of one team got the ball rolling early, and they just never let go of it. Like, they had so many things go right for them. QO loses his career. Then they go top. The beautiful rotation by both supports. The outplay at bottom from March. It felt like things just kind of collapsed from the get-go, and they were never able to get back into the game.
Well, we're rejoined by Zayuri and Purge, one of our faster games here at the qualifiers.
Wow. That was
all
speedy.
Jarex, honestly. Jarex set up so much. Courier snipe, started getting kills, pressured March, and from the first March kill, they were able to get a second, a third. Then he moved top. He had a drums and a phase. He became a core bounty hunter. He could have done whatever he wanted to. He just set up so many kills. And then at that point, the game just kind of ended. Every fight that they took, there was good TP rotations. Disruptors showed up at the perfect time. It was like every fight that happened, Hot6 always teleported the right person into the lane at the perfect time to get the kill and then the follow-up as well. They played that game so well. The only person that wasn't glaringly positive was MP, but he still got a lot of really good kills on supports in the mid to late game.
Yeah, you guys
late game of 14 minutes, that is.
Totally hit the nail on the head. The first 5 to 10 minutes, if they get the momentum, they can take over the game. And
last hits.
That was just impressive. That's
580 GPM.
He last hit more heroes than creeps.
by a factor greater than 2. That's the absurd part. Why farm creeps when you can farm heroes?
And still going for the BKB, the ultimate safe play. That is some patience. If I was that far ahead, I'd be like, Rapier. Here we come.
Dagon, dude. Come on, take the
Dagon's
burst damage.
good, yeah.
No, that's crazy. So where does that leave us looking forward? Is this sort of like a fluke draft? I know Purge and I agreed that the Dire draft seemed a little more conventional, to say the least, but
They did lack some stuns, I guess. So if they are getting overrun, it's just kind of over. And that's basically what Undyne provided, what the Bounty Hunter provided. The track movement speed is really big, and not to mention if they do also run, they're going to get glimpsed back. So they just didn't have any solutions. Once the gold advantage was in Hot6 favor, they ran at them and they couldn't stop them. And the gold advantage was, they had a mech and a pipe, like you said. There was no way that they could get kills at that point. They would focus everything just to blow up one mid hero or something like that. It was way too much commitment. And it just looks like, Hot6 won the set before. They stomped the hell out of them this game. It's very minor, but I think it's a support play that Jarex just did too much that game.
yeah. Now, all of you have at least some competitive experience. How rough is it to lose game one this hard? I mean, is there any tilt factor here coming in? That was like probably the most one-sided game we've seen in this qualifier.
I think it's bad, but it's not as bad as like losing based on like a really bad mess up in like the mid to late game maybe. Like to me, it's just a game where you say, let's forget that game ever happened and move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to understand
I
how
don't
it
know.
balled out of control. But what do you think, Blitz? Give me that look.
I think the key thing is that both teams should realize no matter what happens, they've done great things. Like both MVP squads are going to go to TI.
Yeah.
Like their organization has to be thrilled off of that. Obviously, the players would like a direct seat into TI. But I think the best thing for Phoenix to realize is, okay, we're going to go to TI no matter what. We haven't, disappointed anybody. We've done well by our sponsors, our teammates. Let's just play a little bit more loose, not tilt so hard, because I think what happened right there was that MVP Phoenix kind of realized the stakes. They made uncharacteristic plays left and right. Like we talked about the courier snipe. If we're talking about it before the game, then I feel like every single player in the world knows that if you're playing a competitive game and there's a bounty hunter on the other team, he's going to try to snipe your courier. Like it's just what happens. And I feel like you have to kind of shore up those minor errors because they are small errors, right? Those are things that are really easily correctable that I felt like that MVP Phoenix, if they were playing loose and they were relaxed, they would be fine. But I think they were a little bit tense coming into this game, and I think they felt the pressure. And I think for this one, they just kind of take a step back, say, we're going to get into TI. Let's chill. Let's just try to play the best Dota that we can.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll have a short break, folks, and then we'll come back for game number 2 of this best-of-5 grand final series for the SEA TI5 qualifiers. Which MVP team will make it to the main event and which will be in the wild card? You'll have to stick around to find out.
Just a scout out, and they're going to deep ward again this high ground ward. They're going to look to go on an MP. MP throws out the Laguna Blade, but will die to the Soul Assumption. In comes Drex from the side. Cure's already committed the blink, and just level 1. He'll die for this one. As Bounty Hunter picks up the kill, Jarek's looking for a second on Nuts to get the glimpse back on Visage. Fabi going to die to the Disruptor. Meanwhile, Nuts dead as well.
No.
Oh man, that is just so much golden experience going the way of Hot6 here. Get Visage up to level 6, which means Familiar's now online, but in comes MP with the double nuke combo, and Jarek sets it up, gets level 6 off of that kill. Has track available. There's no Sonic Wave. That's the other bad thing for QO after that last fight, is it did put Sonic Wave on court. He's being slowed down. Turns Dragon Slave stun as well. MP will get the kill for Jerax, but did pay for it with his life. Meanwhile, Jerax is not going to Shadow Walk. He's going for the kill. KP, suicide skill of the Bounty Hunter. Now they're going to go into Nuts here.
The jungle or the Ancients because she doesn't feel safe farming the top lane out. And March might even go down here again.
Look, it's pulled back. Spike's coming into play on the outside as well. Mart's looking to fight his way through this one. Iron Shell not up, and he's going to die to the PL, it looks like. PL gets low. Nuts with one more right click. The Soul Rip heals him up at the last second. Nuts is going to be a track kill for MVP Hot6. As Forov will make his way out of there as well. Queen of Pain gets the kill with the Sonic Wave, but may pay for this.